So this week's Torah portion is called Bechukotai. And Bechukotai means in my commandments. So it starts off by saying, if God is saying to the Jewish people, if you walk in my commandments, you do what the commandments are, then you're going to have all sorts of blessings. But if you don't do the commandments, then God says, I have the option to give you the opposite of blessings, which we see in the history of Jewish people, that God has utilized this option freely, bountifully. Maybe we can say that, I mean, from our point of view, it's bountifully, but from his point of view, maybe we can say sparingly. But in any case, so this week's Torah portion contains in it 49 curses that God has at his disposal to mete out to the Jewish people if they don't do what he wants. Don't do what he wants. Okay, interestingly, two interesting things among these. Number one interesting thing is that one of the curses is not that I'll pick a new people. Just I'll abandon you. You're not going to be my people anymore. And I'll give the land of Israel to somebody else, and I'll make a new Torah. I'll give that to somebody else. And I know enough of you Jews. If that doesn't work, I'll make a third people, a fourth people. That doesn't have that option. Number one. Number two, God does not threaten with hell. Hell is not one of the curses. Even though we certainly do believe in hell, and there certainly is such a thing. But all the curses seem to be physical things. Okay, now there's another aspect of it which is a little bit deeper, as that is from God. Nothing bad ever comes from God. Everything God does is good. And even here we have 49 curses. How can we say those are good? And you think that's something, 49 curses in the book of Deuteronomy, in Parshat Kitavo, there's twice as many curses. So some people say these curses are in the first temple, and the other one is in the second temple. And in any case, they're curses. So you have all these curses and curses and curses. So how can we say that God is good if he doesn't hide the fact that he's got all these curses? And also, why do you have to have so many curses? Just say, if you don't do good, you'll get cursed. That's all. And God will say, you'll find out. You'll find out. But do you have to list exactly what the curses are? And there won't be any food, and there'll be all sorts of enemies, and there'll be famine, and there'll be disease, and there'll be this. It doesn't mention anything about going to hell, and he does really gets into these curses. Okay, so we'll see that one of the reasons is because really these curses are really blessings, and the more the better. Even though in a revealed way, the less the better. It's better if there wasn't any at all. But if we could see the amazing blessings that are contained in these curses, then I don't know if we would ask for more curses, but for sure we wouldn't be as shocked. And as I say, by the whole thing, we'd say, okay, it's shocking, there has to be this terrible thing, but it's really for the good. Okay, so let's see. Ready? Here we go. Here's one of the curses. It says, B'shivrei, get my pointer over here. B'shivrei, mate lechem. I will break for you the staff of bread. In other words, God saying, now you're going to see what I'm going to do with the bread. There's going to be such a dearth of fuel that 10 women are going to have to bake in one oven, the bread. Won't have enough for your own oven. And it says, and most of the bread will rot and it won't be any good. So you'll have to weigh out, what is good. Say every woman, 10 women, each one bakes a whole loaf of bread. And all the bread comes out rotten, it comes out no good. So maybe there's a little bit left of each little piece. So we'll have to put it all together and weigh it out to everybody. Right? Maybe this lady, a little bit more bread comes out good. Okay, so again, I will break for you the staff of bread. 10 women will bake their bread in one oven, and what will come out, you'll have to weigh out the bread. In other words, you bake 10 loaves, won't be 10 loaves worth of eating. There'll be maybe, a half a loaf of bread that's edible. So you'll have to divide it into 10 portions and eat it. That's what it means. It'll be b'mishkal, it'll be weighed out. Hine, behold. See, make this a little bigger here. Oh. Okay. Hine, behold, it is known, sha'af shalafi hanira, that even though that it appears, hatochachot elu, these reproofs that God gives. A reproof means if somebody does something wrong, so you reprove me. You're not doing good. Stop doing that. Ham klalos, it seems that there are curses. Right? God says you'll eat your children and all sorts of terrible things. It'll be so much, so everybody will be so hungry. But in fact, in fact, they're only blessings. Now, if they're only blessings, so why doesn't God just give blessings? Just say blessings. What does he have to say curses for? So the Rebbe is going to say that this is a big hint on life in general. What is external? We don't see the inside of things, the true meaning of things. Then the outcome is not a happy one. So let's see. Let's understand this. What it says in the Zohar. This is especially relevant because this week is the day of the passing away of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And he wrote the Zohar like 1,800 years ago, something like that. And that's the basic book of Kabbalah that it says from it, Mashiach will come. Because the whole thing of Mashiach is just to reveal God in every detail of the world. And that's what Rabbi Shimon explained in his book. So here, let's take an example. Here's the example. It says that there are 3 levels. Mitkashrim Dabada, attached one to the other. Kodesh Baruch Hu, God, Oraita, the Torah, the Israel, and the Jews. Kulu, all these 3 things. God, the Torah, and the Jews, Darga al Darga, are level on level. Satim v'Galya, revealed and concealed. Okay, so let's just take this at face value here. Me and you are being created right now. The whole world around you is being created. Do you see this, that you're being created? Though I don't feel I'm being created. I'm just here. The fact of the matter is that we're being created. The Creator is creating us right now. But this is hidden from us. This is hidden from us. We can't see it. In fact, that's the whole secret of the creation of the world. The word for world is the same word for concealment. Olam, Helem, same letters, Ayin, Lamed, Mem. So the world is hiding something. What's it hiding? It's hiding how good the Creator is. That's what the creation does. That's what God decided. That's the whole story of the Bible. God made this thing called the creation, and he put me and you in it. And we're part of the creation. And a very important thing, like anything else, is knowing what the inside is. Right? The Rebbe spoke about it several times. Say a person, God forbid, he has to make an operation, serious operation. Guy is sick, he's going to die in another week for sure, feels all this pain. So pain, his heart isn't working, his lungs aren't working. So they say, listen, we can make a lung transplant, a heart transplant. We got the heart, we have the lungs for you. Oh, the person is very happy. But he goes to make it out. What is he happy about? They're going to cut him open like a fish. They're going to take out pieces of his body. They're going to put new parts in. What, a person is a car? What are you doing? What are you doing to my Uncle Joe? They're cutting up Daddy. Hey, What are you doing? No, this is for his good. What type of good? What are you talking about? These people are sadist murderers. Look at they're cutting up, and all the families just sitting there happy, smiling. What you got? You're nuts. What are you doing? This is an operation. It's good. It's a good thing. So externally, I'm just giving the examples. Externally, sometimes things that seem to be terrible are really the best for us. I mean, it would be better if we didn't get sick at all. But so sometimes what we see is not what there is. And that's supposed to be the idea why people go to university and things like that, so that they can understand what are the inner workings of, law or art or music or whatever it is, how it works, the inside. So the inside is the good part of the external, what seems to be bad. So let's go. It says, now what we're not talking about university, we're not talking about operations, we're talking about three aspects of reality. The Jewish people, they're in the middle. There's God and there's the Torah. Sometimes the Jewish people are in case there's God, the Torah, and the Jewish people. Perish afilu min esteem. It says Ubiranian explanation is satim, that aspect which is concealed. God masha eno nira means that what you cannot see and you cannot even understand. Eno mitlabesh b'makom klal, and it's not in the physical world at all. V'nikra stima the kol stimin, and it's called the hidden of all hiddens. That's the language in the Zohar. Stima the kol stimin, the concealed of the concealed. What does it mean? That even from the concealed worlds, who satim, there's aspects that are concealed from them. That's when it's concealed from the concealed. For instance, the angels are all burning up to God because they have no idea what God is. They just know that God is creating them, and they're going berserk. So it's hidden from them. So the angels are hidden from us, and from the angels, godliness is hidden. So God is like twice removed hidden. And the fact is that's oversimplifying the whole thing, because there's levels and levels and levels and levels of creation. And there's no thought from the upper worlds, angels, for instance, Tafisa Bay, that can grasp God at all. Now, all of this business of this Kabbalah and these levels, etc., this is only to show God's greatness. This is not to show our greatness, that we understand all these great mystical ideas and we can amaze our friends. Might be the center of the party or whatever. We can talk about all these levels of Ban and Ak and Man and Shvirat HaKelim, things like that. This is in order to impress ourselves, me, of the greatness of God. That what I see, the world, as amazing as the world is pretty amazing. I mean, you have to admit it. You look at the world, how diverse things are in the world. And the main thing is the physical world. That's the main thing. That's what God created, the physical world. But in order to really appreciate the creator of the physical world, we have to look a little bit at the spiritual aspects of the whole thing, because the spiritual is more diverse than even the physical is. There's more aspects and angels and things like that than there is in the physical world. It says that every blade of grass has its spiritual force that hits it and tells it to grow. So everything in the world has its spiritual source. The spiritual worlds are more diverse than this physical world is, as important and essential as the physical is. But nevertheless, if we look only at the physical world itself, and we get an appreciation of God, right? But you get much more of an appreciation of God, and also that God is not spiritual. Look at the physical world. You can think that God is spiritual. God is some sort of a spirit, and it's not so. God creates all the spirit. That's the importance of knowing these spiritual worlds. Ubechinas Galia, and this revealed aspect of God, the Torah and the Jews, this is what we see. Olam HaGashmi, the physical world, Bechinas Makom, a place, Bal Shishat Katzavos, that they have what's called 6 directions: above, below, right, left, front, back. The 4 directions of the world: east, west, north, south. So at first glance, Lo Yitachen Lomar al Bechinas Gashmi is to say the physical world is God. How can the physical world be God? What are you talking about? There's 3 aspects of God: the Torah, the Jewish people, and the world. How could this possibly be? The world is God. But really, the fact is, it's so, because there's nothing outside of God. God is creating everything all the time, and He's creating it from Himself. So as a result, there's no, so to speak, from Himself. It's hidden a billion times, watered down, but it's still, there's nothing outside of God. God's kingship rules over everything. Everything we see. Mineral, plant, animal, human. In this physical world, gashmi, migashmim, everything physical from the physical world, chayot ruchni, it's got spiritual. Hamachayoto, that it enlivens it all the time. And this is also physical. God says there's a place with me. Spiritually, there's also a place that we see the soul that enlivens a cat. Is different from a soul that enlivens a bird. There's different soul that enlivens all souls are spiritual things. How can there be levels and places in spirituals? So the Rebbe says it's the same way with the angels and everything. Everything has its place, but it's a different concept of place than here. What does it mean? Makom shehachayot ruchani bechinut makom. Spiritual place. It's also called Galia. That's also called revealed. The spiritual worlds that to us are hidden, those worlds are called the revealed worlds. Why? Because there's a concealed level which is above them. Min bechinas makom ke'inyan bittul osios machshava, just like letters of thought are negated in the mind. You have a mind. Yes. Your mind thinks thoughts. Yes. The thoughts are totally negated to your mind. Right? Your mind can think an infinite number of thoughts as long as you're alive. Right? I mean, every thought is just one little thought, and it's being created from the mind itself. So the thought is not a separate thing from the mind, but the thought is negated in the mind. Even though that the mind, your mind, is not in your thoughts at all, you can be taught a song or something like that, and say a poem, and say the poem, and not be involved in it in your thoughts whatsoever. I wrote. So the essence of your mind is not in your thoughts. Same thing, the essence of God is not in the worlds, not even in the spiritual worlds. The worlds are just like a thought of God, so to speak. That's what we say, that God is called Baruch HaMakom. We say in the God of Pesach, also Passover, Baruch HaMakom, Baruch Hu. That's what we say, blessed are you, God. The Jewish people are supposed to make 100 blessings every day. What is a blessing? Exactly that, drawing from the hidden world into the revealed world. Baruch means to be drawn down. Lahamshich mina maila, mina makom, lebechinat makom. To draw down from what's called above our place in this world into the place of the world. Al derech, like it says in the brachas, Baruch Hashanim, lahamshich mina maila mina makom, lebechinat zman. To draw down from place, from above time into time. Okay, so that's the whole idea of the Jewish people. The idea of the Jewish people is supposed to be to make the Creator revealed in His creation. That was the Holy Temple. So if so, what we see, that's just the shell. And the inner part of it is, if you want to call it the fruit, the light. And that fruit, that light, there's levels which are above it. Then that becomes the shell, and what's above it becomes the light. And the whole idea of the Jewish people is they have the ability, by doing what God wants, because that's the whole reason He created the world, is that somebody should do what He wants, what the Creator wants. And when the Jewish people do what they want, they make what's called a bracha. They bless, they draw godliness and reveal God in the world. That's what it means, Baruch Hashem. That's what it means, blessed is God. Min olam ad olam. That's what they used to say in the Holy Temple. Blessed is God from the world to the world. Okay, here he explains, this is from the Tzemach Tzedek, etc. Where is this end? 1 minute. I had this thing planned out before. There it is. Hine. Behold. All right, the Torah, that's the world. We just talked about how the world is hidden, the angels and things. It says the Torah is the same thing. The Torah also, Sasim Vagalia, is concealed and hidden. Now we're going to get to these curses and how we'll see how they're really blessings. The inside is really blessed. Perish, what does it mean? Just like these curses. Shalafia Nira, that according to what we see, Musag, what we understand, Bechin is Gully in a revealed way. Eino Badaber, it doesn't talk about Be Yisrael. It says God will put all these curses on your enemies. Hainu Bechinas Esav. Shubechinas Ela. These Ela, these breast. I'll put all these, all these curses on your. It says that if you do good, then God will put all the curses on your enemies. That's what it means. Ela, these Rabim, Turi the Pruda, like it's the mountains of separation. Like it says, Nafashas Asu. Maybe this is Asu, not Asu. God made. Okay, Aval, but you, Jewish people, singular, Tashu v'shamata b'kol Hashem. You will return and listen to the voice of God. That's going to be the end of all these. Kipinimius, because the inside and the concealed level of all these curses becomes revealed into the revealed world, so there's no more curses. Just take a simple example. What happens when a person dies, right? So his soul goes away. Wait, that's the worst thing. Everybody's crying and screaming. Right? Uncle Joe is dead. The person goes, what do you mean he's dead? What are you talking about? Here he is. There he is, right there. Right, there he is. He says, that's Uncle Joe, but he's dead. He's dead. What do I care? Oh, I don't care if he's dead. I know. So like when he's sleeping, it's sort of like this. Let's just keep him around. Let's keep him around. We'll keep him cold or something. Whatever we have to do. Keep Uncle Joe around. I think there's some people that do, the Mexicans or somebody. They keep the dead bodies in a room. They have a room where they can visit them. Things like that. I think the Paros, they used to embalm, so that they kept them around, right? They kept the people around. I mean, what's the difference if a person is dead or alive? So what are you talking about? Dead is the worst thing. Nobody wants to die. Dead is terrible. What's the difference between dead? What's the big deal? I don't understand. What's the big deal about that? But because dead is missing the inside. There's no life involved. There's no life inside of the person. So we see that the outside, external alone, it's death, it's a curse, it's terrible. The inside is good, right? The inside that's the good part of it. That's what it means. That's the same thing as in the world, and that's the same thing as in the Torah. So it says when there's unity, the oneness of God, that's revealed, that's the blessing. And when there's separation, then it's bad. It's also the same thing when after a person dies, so his body disintegrates. When a person is alive, his body does not disintegrate. Right? You take a dead person and you put him out in the sun or something like that, and if it's 80 degrees, 90 degrees, whatever, it starts to smell, it's terrible. But a living person is 98.6 degrees. That's his temperature of his body. You heat him up and he's good. He lives. That's good. Right? A dead person is dead. Everything becomes cold. You warm it up a little bit and it starts to rot. A human being is 98.6 degrees. It's pretty hot. You go outside and the day is 98.6 degrees. That's sweltering hot, right? And that's the temperature of every healthy person, because the soul makes a person healthy and it unifies him. So that's the inside. That's what it means. If you listen, B'kol Hashem. That's what it says in the end. If you listen to the voice of God, God creates the world from His word, but the voice of it, this is all the blessings which are inside of the curses. Behold, you do. It's known. These are the footnotes from the third Rebbe of Chabad. Behold, you do. It's known that the Torah is called bread. Now, what the Rebbe is going to say over here now is it's a pretty amazing thing. That a person eats a piece of bread, and that, of course, that's what we're talking about here: baking bread. Torah is bread, and a person eats bread, and it keeps him alive. How can bread keep me alive? How can bread, which is just it's a piece of wheat just ground up, and that keeps me alive, that I can think thoughts and I can say words, the wheat can't do any of those things. How is it gives me life? So the Rebbe is going to say that inside of this wheat, that's the good. There's something hidden, there's life. Let's go. Here's this. Lichor, at first glance, there's bread. Bread is the same thing. The external is not good. The internal, that's what keeps us alive. So we see the inside of it. Lichor, at first glance, how can it be that bread keeps us alive? The Torah is called bread. And this keeps a person alive, just like physical bread. Shemachayat, the goof, that keeps the body alive. Even though the bread is a vegetable, right? Comes from wheat. And a person who is an animal, a speaking animal, an intelligent animal. This makes no sense. How can it be that the chai, that we human beings that speak, that we have to have in order to live, we have to have something below us? Why do we have to have wheat in order to live? The produce of the earth, its life that's inside of it, in some ways the source of life of the vegetable, the source of it is higher than the source of life of human. But it fell down into the physical world to make wheat grow up. And it's the same thing with the Torah. The Torah is called bread. What do we say the Torah is called bread? Umazon, the neshama. Ugamkin, it's also the same thing. And that really when God gave the Torah was supposed to be pure godliness. But now the Torah, the external of the Torah, conceals the inside. That the secrets of the Torah, nishtalshalu, they have descended, b'devurim kashmir, into physical things, forbidden and permissible, right? It's permissible to eat this animal, forbidden to eat that animal. What's the Torah talking about animals for? Tomb of a Torah, impure, pure. Why? Calls it all this. Why did the Torah fall down? Why is it we read the Torah and you don't see any godliness in the Torah? Right? This is that in the future there's going to be a new Torah. We'll see the godliness. But now the Torah is, it's so external that it's given. We've talked about this a lot of times. It's given to what do you say, to be deformed and twisted and everything. That's this whole religion. The Christianity is all based on twisting the Torah and deforming taking the exact opposite of what it means and making it, because you just take the external part of it. The external part of the Torah, you can do whatever you want to. Calls is because like a dead body doesn't resist, right? It doesn't resist the same thing. The Torah without the soul, it's like it's dead. It doesn't resist. You can translate anything you want to. You can concoct any sort of meaning that you want to it. Says the Rebbe, that's the external of the Torah. But why did this happen? How could it happen that the Torah could be so misinterpreted and misunderstood? You don't see any godliness in it at all. Because shenaflo b'shvira, that the letters of the Torah fell in the breaking. What does it mean? Because the breaking of the tablets. When Moses went up on Mount Sinai and the Jewish people worshipped idols, he came down, he broke the tablets. Originally, when God gave the Torah, there was no more death in the world. God spoke to the Jews, that's it. Death ended. No more death in the world. But as soon as the Jewish people decided to serve the golden calf, and why did they serve the golden calf? Because they thought that Moses wasn't going to go back. As soon as there's no Moses, the Jews go crazy. So they served the golden calf, right? And that Moses came down, broke the tablets, and from that brought death back into the world. Because of their breaking, the Torah became into physical things. It could be the Jewish people could have just learned the Torah, and the world, that would just cure the whole world. It would be, the whole world would be like the Holy of Holies. What was the Holy of Holies? The tablets. That's what it means. That's what it means. I broke for you the staff of bread. The mate lechem. What is the staff of bread? The tree of life. That's the tablets before they were broken. The first tablets before they were broken. And God said, because of your sins, as I broke the staff of life, the Torah, as it was given at Mount Sinai originally, the first two tablets, they had to be broken. What does it mean? There was broken the sasim, the secrets of the Torah. When this tree of life was broken, which is basically the same thing that Adam did, is nafla, therefore it came down into physical things. So what's the Rebbe saying? That inside of this breaking of the Torah, there's still, so what had happened? Just the hidden aspects of the Torah, they became more and more hidden. They, so to speak, went away, but they're still there. So what we see externally is just telling us the reason for it. The reason that the Torah now is not revealed godliness is because the Jewish people sinned with the golden calf, and now we fix that up. How do we fix it up? By, yes, putting our interest in the secrets of the Torah that went away. What is the secrets? That's Chassidut. That's what we're learning right now. This is the secrets of this is the tree of life, what we're learning here. And that's what it means. The 10 women will cook in one oven. Perish. This is how you fix it up. Perish, afu, what does it mean baked? Kihine, because the Torah is called bread. Chita. It's called chita, wheat. Chita is the gematria 22. Add it up together, take out your computers. Chet is 8. Tet is 9. 9 and 8 is 17. Hey is 5. 17 and 5, 22. That's the 22 letters of the alphabet, of the Hebrew alphabet. The 22 letters of the Torah is like the number chita. And that's what it means that the women bake the Torah. What does this mean? Let's see. Inyan is like this. If you eat dough that is not baked, remember we just learned that last week. Remember we learned that last week? We were talking about how making bread. How bread is the Torah is supposed to be your food. If you just eat dough, then it doesn't get digested, kalal, at all. The enu nivla be'vorov, and it's not swallowed up in your limbs. Liot mimenu dam u lenefesh. It becomes food for your soul. Excuse me. But if you eat bread after it is cooked, but if you break bread after it is cooked, overdid it a little bit. But if you eat bread after it is cooked, then it becomes swallowed up in your, it becomes, how do you say, digested in your stomach, nivla, and absorbed in your limbs. To be blood for your soul. It enlivens you. And also it's the same thing now with the Mazon Nefesh, which is the Torah. If you don't bake it, it's done by a person. Kamo, she is bread, like we're going to explain. What does it mean to bake the bread? We'll see. Torah, even if a person learns a lot of Torah, aval, if that's not cooked, if it's not cooked, Torah, it doesn't unify with him. Elahu, it is, the Torah is separate, the person is separate. He doesn't receive any life from the Torah at all. Like physical bread, that is not cooked yet. Right? If God, the Jewish people had not sinned with the golden calf, and Moses came down with the tablets, then everybody would feel the godliness and the good in the Torah. They would feel that the same God that gave the Torah is the same God that's giving us life, and we wouldn't feel separate. Our life wouldn't feel separate from the Torah. So when we learn Torah, that's what people basically felt when they went to the Holy Temple. They felt, because the essence of the Holy Temple was the tablets that were in the Holy of Holies. And when they went there, they felt that their whole life was coming from the Torah. The whole creation of the world is coming from the Torah. And what does that make a person? It makes a person happy. He realizes that he's tremendously important in the eyes of God. God is creating us. And we're not only talking about Jews, every single human being, but the Jews maybe appreciated it more. They appreciated it more. And maybe that's why that they could, how do you say, to insult God more, because they were closer. Right? Like the rebellious son. But when the bread is baked, it's all done. So nowadays we have to bake it. The Torah has to be baked, just like the Torah has to be. When the Torah is baked, then it becomes absorbed in all of your limbs. You become one with the Torah, really. But that's what it means. What the rabbis say, arucha bakal, and the pasuk arucha bakal. The Torah is arranged in everything. V'shemura, what does it mean? V'shemura, that's a pasuk of Shemura. I think it comes from Mishlei, from Proverbs. I'll look it up. It says, if the Torah is arranged, if it's absorbed in all of your 248 limbs, then then the Torah will be kept. In other words, the reason that people reject the Torah or divert the Torah, pervert the Torah, or deform the Torah, whatever they do, because they don't feel the godliness in the Torah. They feel that they're separate from the Torah. So Torah is a book. And what's really real is me. I'm really real. So I can take the Torah, whatever appeals to me. But if they feel the godliness and the Torah, then they'll feel that the same God that's creating me is the same God that's giving the Torah. And the Torah is a direction for me. And it's not only just a direction, it's enlivening me. That's the tree of life. Like we said, the Shav Ta'oretz, remember we talked about last week, we talked about this, that we have all these things that have to be done to make the Torah, planting and grinding, remember? Kneading and baking. Okay, let's understand what exactly is this whole idea of baking. What do we have to do? How do we bake the Torah? What does it mean? That's what it says. Okay, so how do we reveal the blessing inside of this apparent curse? Says the Rebbe, the whole reason that it's a curse is because we don't feel the blessing inside of it. We just have, God broke the staff of bread. When he broke the tablets, when Moses broke the tablets, so God broke the staff of bread. But what does it mean? It's still available to us. God didn't take the Torah away from us, made a new Torah. God didn't take the Torah from us. He gave us we have the Torah, but it's just broken. It's just broken. And now we have to put it together in order to make it nourishing again. And that's what it means to bake the Torah. And we're going to find out what this is tomorrow. Now we're going to learn about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai.